You're going to take me on a train ride today?
Well, we'll have to see. Maybe even a steam engine.
When we were young, we burned like summer suns. Our fears at bay, we made our own way, no stopping us. We never knew the sky beyond the blue. We turned the page, our story became a world brand new. You and I, we have found what we've been missing. You and I, it feels like we're finally living. We are wide awake, it's all so clear. The dreams we held are standing here. You and I, we have found what we've been missing. Open wide, the future's on our side. We'll touch the stars, we'll follow our hearts into the light. Walk with me and
Boy, today did we find another one of those incredible hideaway places that you do not want to miss. Today we went to the Age of Steam Roundhouse. The story in and of itself is phenomenal. The man that put this in place and lived because of his love for steam engines have gathered them from all over the world.
Millions of dollars.
Oh my
in
goodness.
these trains.
And then you begin to look at the renovation that we saw while we were on the tour, of detail that goes into the remaking of these incredible pieces of machines from the 1900s all the way through pieces, World War II, all the way up to into the 50s with steam engines that were used operational in so many ways. Maybe you've ridden on some of them.
Well, in World War II,
Yes.
in the 20s and 30s
Yes.
and 40s. And
then some were used for sightseeing excursions that would go out. History and stories, incredible. And the tour guide, just phenomenal, knows the history and the love for these engines in this roundhouse that sits just outside of Sugarcreek, Ohio.
right in the middle of Amish country.
Yes, and for many, you could drive to Sugarcreek, enjoy Berlin, and never even know how close you were to something like this.
Right. And if you haven't subscribed, we would love to have you part of our community.
Yes.
So also hit the like button and ring the bell if you want to know in our next video. But come along with us as we continue to look at our steam engines.
Heat up the water that's in the boiler. And when we heat up water, we get steam, which rises to the top and collects in the steam dome. And I'll point that out on the other side. But I do want to point out just a handful of some of the controls here in the cab. And so as the engineer opens and closes that throttle, they're controlling the amount of steam that is released down into this valve. Contract out the building of their locomotives. So if you owned a railroad, you'd send your contract for a series of locomotives to one of the big manufacturers who would pump that out on a production line. You wouldn't build your own locomotives. During the Depression, 1929, the stock market crashes, everything comes to a screeching halt. The Wheeling and Lake Erie, which this line adjacent to our property here is part of the old Wheeling and Lake Erie. They were looking for a cheap way to produce a series of locomotives. They were also interested in keeping their workmen in their shops on job. Otherwise, they'd have to lay them off. So what they did was they set them to work building these locomotives in their shops to keep them practiced on their skills. So it's what we call a home-built locomotive. These were built in Brewster, Ohio, just up the railroad tracks here, for use on the Wheeling and Lake Erie by their shop crews. This locomotive ultimately went down. It was in Zanesville, Ohio, and it worked as a switcher, a yard switcher down there on the Wheeling. And then it was recalled, sat in Brewster for some time when it was retired, and then ultimately it went to Mother Gooseland Park in Canton, Ohio. 1928, a year after Charles Lindbergh's famous transatlantic flight from New York to Paris, first solo transatlantic flight. And Charles Lindbergh was a big celebrity. The Alabama, Tennessee, and Northern used his name here to advertise their fast freight service. 401 participated in that fast freight service on the railroad. Just his name invoked in many of the American people this idea of speed and living in modern times and efficiency and all that. So that was sort of a marketing gimmick, if you will. As a result of this accident in '95, steam going through those holes and shooting a hot jet of steam into the cab, covering the crewmen with third-degree burns. Right? The Federal Railroad Administration created a whole new series of regulations on steam locomotives. This is called the 15-year inspection, what we call the 15-year inspection. Meaning that every 15 years, or 1,472 operating days, the locomotive has to be completely torn down. They do a grid pattern on the entire boiler, and they ultrasound it, looking for weak, thin spots in the boiler. There's a whole other series of inspections that go on with locomotives with lots of different moving parts on these. But it takes a lot of time, it's very time consuming. It takes expert knowledge and labor to be able to do that inspection. And it can just be sort of difficult. So this requires the operations that run steam locomotives are very strategic with how they use their resources. Used in many different industries, something textiles maybe, or like I said, mining, or manufacturing of gunpowder, things like that. Places you don't want sparks shooting out and burning up your factory, right?
But we just almost stumbled upon this last season. Because you do want to go order ahead for your tickets, they sell out pretty quick. But they do have dates beginning in the spring all the way into the fall of the year. And so we said we weren't going to miss that this year.
Right.
The table was the hub of the Roundhouse. The blacksmith who built these doors and made all the hardware operates out of Akron, Ohio. Again, just trying to use local labor, keep old techniques, old skills alive.
And boy, what a rich experience. And so
history.
If you like trains, if you like the culture of steam engines, and if you just like to relive some periods of our history as a country, this is a great place to do it. I'd highly recommend you taking some time and coming out to the Age of Steam Roundhouse, just outside of Sugarcreek.
Right. If you're coming to Berlin and, just want to come to Amish country, just know this is here.
Yes.
And it's just worth coming.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Engineer named Cy Warman. Oft when I feel my engine swerve as o'er strong rails we fare, I strain my eyes around the curve for what awaits us there. As swift and free she carries me through yards unknown by night, I look along the lines to see that all the lamps are white. The blue light marks the crippled car. The green light signals slow. The red light is the danger light. The white light, let her go. Once more the open fields we roam, and in the sky is fair. I look up in that starry dome and wonder what's up there. For who can speak for those who dwell beyond the curving sky? No man has ever lived to tell just what it means to die. Swift towards life's terminal I trend. The run seems short tonight. God only knows what's at the end, but I hope the lights are white. But so how do we know it's a caboose? What are the features that tell us this is a caboose?
It's red.
And all I can say is, woo, woo, woo.
We have found